Hey everybody, Dave Isaacs here with you, and today's lesson is on double stop riffs. A double stop is when you play two notes at the same time, so essentially we're talking about a partial chord, but it's not a complete chord. It's going to fit a chord or imply a chord. We're going to be primarily using either one finger, just the index as a bar, or two fingers, either index middle, or middle and ring. So we're talking about relatively simple combinations of notes, and today's exercise, called Twang Blues, is taking some of these double stops, putting them in a blues setting. So I'm going to play through that for you right now. 1, 2, 3. So that's Twang Blues. You might notice that it's fairly repetitive. There's really just one main riff, primarily. It's this. Here's our double stops. We're starting off with the middle and ring fingers, and I'm going to grab the 3rd fret of the 2nd string with my middle finger, the 4th fret of the 3rd string with my ring finger. So essentially this is a second position fingering, because if my index finger was landing on the strings, I'd be on the 2nd fret. We're using this combination because it works very neatly with the next double stop. So here are the two notes. It's a B fretted on the 3rd string, 4th fret, and a D fretted on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And you can either grab those notes straight on, or you can slide into it like I was when I played through the exercise, and you would do that by landing on the frets below, basically the 2nd and 3rd frets, or somewhere in that neighborhood, and just gliding in. Keep in mind, we're not really trying to hear the lower notes. It's not this. The slide is just a way of approaching the note, so we hear that we're sliding into the note, but the starting point isn't really so much the important thing as the arrival. And if the slide isn't comfortable for you, then you can play it without it, but it does add a lot of nice flavor to it. This is basically outlining an E7 chord. The B and D notes give you the 5th and blues 7th, flat 7th, of an E7 chord. Now the riff involves taking that B and D double stop and then going to an index finger bar, 2nd and 3rd strings on the 2nd fret, and I'm just using my index finger lightly resting here on strings 2 and 3. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. Now, depending on how your guitar is set up, if your action's kind of high, it might take a little bit more. But you should be able to get these two notes to sound. What that sometimes will take is literally bending the fingertip back at the knuckle, like this, because that creates more of a flat surface. So you might notice that my fingertip is bent just a little bit. See, if I curl, I don't get a clear high note. So I have to flatten it out just a little, but I'm not gripping, I'm not squeezing real hard, I'm just kind of leaning on those two strings. Now I mentioned the middle and ring fingering for this E7 double stop, and I like that because it sets us up beautifully for this double stop, which is basically the root and third of an A chord, and then we're just going to lift that finger and play two open strings, the G and the B. Now this takes a certain amount of picking control, obviously, to only strike two strings. And what I'm doing is I'm limiting the movement. I'm not really using my arm. It's essentially just a back and forth of the wrist, like this. And the only difference in the stroke from playing single notes is that I'm moving a little bit more. So it's still a dip of the thumb, basically, but moving the thumb enough that I'm getting through two strings. And our timing is 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So that's our primary double stop riff, and we're going to use that over an E chord and over an A chord. It sounds good over both. Just creates different harmonies when you do that. In our exercise, we're going to repeat it over the E, move to the A, repeat it once, move back to the E, and then we'll have a turnaround to take us out. We begin with a little pickup. Very familiar sounding little blues lick, minor pentatonic in E. And this is just going from the second fret of the A string, this B note, to the open A string, the middle finger to the sixth string, E string, third fret, and then open E. So starting from the A string, fifth string, it's frets 2, O, next string, fret 3, and open. The timing is 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So when we land on that E, that's actually the downbeat of the whole cycle. We call this the pickup. It's setting up everything that's going to come after that. You might also notice that we're using a shuffle rhythm. Shuffle rhythm means that instead of dividing the beat up evenly into twos, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're dividing it up into a longer and shorter note, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So instead of that pickup being ba 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 ba, where everything is of equal duration, we have the 1 and 2 and 3, long, short, long, short. Really, that last note isn't short because we're going to let it be the downbeat. It could ring out if you want to let it. I'm going to mute it. 1, 2, 3. I'm essentially just catching it with my picking hand. Base of my palm can just rest back here by the bridge and stop the string. So our shuffle rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our pickup, 2, 3. Notice again that I did slide into that first note, and that's as simple as landing on the string a little below, in this case the first fret, and sliding in. And just like this slide, we're really not as concerned about the note we're starting from. We just want to hear that we're coming from below and moving up into it. So here's the combination of the pickup and then the primary riff. 1, 2, 3. Bass note. chord in our blues progression, instead of using the open B string, I'm sliding up to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. That note is also B. Remember that the 3rd string is G, and if we go chromatically, we have open G, 1st fret G sharp, 2nd fret A, 3rd fret A sharp, 4th fret B. And incidentally, that 4th fret B does match the open B string. But I like the sound of sliding along the string to get to that B. So it's going to go like this. And then, continuing up the string. Might not be where you expected it to go, but it sounds good. Sliding into it gives us a nice full, good thick sound. And then I'm using my index finger here, right? Slid in with the pointer. And then just using one finger at a time. Middle on 5th fret, ring on the 6th fret. So it's just pointer, middle, ring. Notice the timing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6. Now this note is a C sharp, and it actually implies the change to an A chord. And we're going to follow that up with a double stop in 2nd position that gives us an A7. Pointer in middle, B string 2nd fret, E string 3rd fret, and that happens to be the 3rd and high 7th of an A7 chord. Now you may know A7 this way. This is also A7. They're both A7 because the 7 in A7 comes from the note G. With this fingering, middle and ring on strings 4 and 2, the G is in between them on the open string. You'll sometimes see that doubled with this high G here on the 1st string 3rd fret. That's got 2 G's. Or you can simply play a bar, one finger across strings 4, 3, and 2 at the 2nd fret, and then grab this G, 1st string 3rd fret. So that's an A7. Good chord voicing to know, so just incidentally, A7, also A7, and again A7. The double stop is just taking the 2 highest notes of that A7 chord. 2nd fret C sharp on the B string, 3rd fret G on the E string. So listen to how that works. I'm coming from stop, that gives me a moment to get here, and then just releasing. I'm going to stay here in 2nd position for a moment so I can do this. Open. That gives us a little bit of major pentatonic. That's something we can delve deeper into another time, but that C sharp note against E is actually from the major pentatonic scale. So in any case, we're coming off this double stop, then open E, 2nd fret C sharp on the B string, and back to the E. Listen to the way that completes the musical idea. From our B, this is A, and that brings us back to E when we hear that low bass note, and then our little turnaround lick goes like this. That's a very, very common blues turnaround. A turnaround is a pattern that shows up at the end of the cycle to set you up to start over. So all we've got is a descending line on the 2nd string, starting with the D note, 3rd fret, then you play the open E, then you go to the 2nd fret C sharp, open E, 1st fret C, open E, B. Now you've heard this many, many times in lots of variations. In this case, it's going. Now watch this. Remember that all of this implies chords. I'm not playing complete chords, but pieces of them. So this, when I hit those notes, the open B, the second fret A on the third string, and back to the open B, your ear now hears the B chord, the 5 chord, which is turning us around to start over again. So once again, from the B at the turnaround section, and then this is just like before. Bending my wrist to get to those low notes. I'm literally moving over. If you watch my picking hand, moving over, and then not only does that give me a clean note on the bass, but it lets me muffle with the heel of my hand. So here's the second time through. This is just like before. Now, here's the difference. The second time through ends a little differently. I'm going to use the index finger double stop, this time to play a B by sliding up to the 4th fret, getting the 3rd and 2nd strings. Now, that's just giving us the root and 3rd of a barred B chord. But watch this. Just sliding it down gives us a descending B, B flat, A, and then that A7 double stop just like we had before. And this time, the turnaround lick uses triplets. And then ending with a double stop of 2 open strings. Triplets, of course, just working with our shuffle rhythm, dum, 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 turning it into triplet, 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 triplet. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Just to walk you through this ending lick, we come down the descending D, C sharp, C, B, and then hit the A on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and then hammer on another double stop. I'm hitting the G and B strings together, open, and then hammering my index finger to the 1st fret. Basically making an E minor into an E major. It's a nice effect, and you'll hear that on E chord used a lot. So, again, coming from the turnaround. Second fret, hammer on, and hitting both strings so we get the double stop. Resolving to E on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and then low E closes the door. So here's the last piece of the second time through. pretty straightforward. If this vocabulary is new to you, it may take a little time before you're comfortable with the control in the picking hand. But if you take your time working through it, it's not all that challenging. The hardest part, really, is moving back and forth between, say, the double stop and the open string. And like I said, you can use the arm to bring the pick to the string. If you need to rest a little bit on the face of the guitar to help with your control, that's really okay, just so long as you're not stretching out the fingers in the process of trying to get from one string to another. But that's the whole idea behind moving the hand and not just the pick. The other thing is some of the string crossing can be a little tricky, say on this. But again, you keep the pick motion small, essentially just back and forth. The triplets break out to down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Aside from that, pretty much all of this is down picks. So have some fun with it. You've got the music in the PDF. You may notice that the slides are not indicated in the tab. That's okay, consider them optional. They're a nice bit of flavor. They do sound good in there. Use them if you're comfortable with it. If you're not, then experiment with sliding. You can always practice just doing stuff like this. The idea, remember, is to maintain contact without having lots of pressure. So I'm not really bearing down hard. I'm pushing just enough to get a note. Using middle and ring is a little more challenging because the combination of fingers isn't quite as strong. But if you're able to get this, that B and D, frets 4 and 3, to sound comfortably, and again notice that I'm bent, I'm on the fingertips. If that works and that sounds good, then it's not really a big deal to land a fret below and glide in. And so the other places we use slides, same kind of thing. Start a fret below, glide in. Start a fret below, glide in. That's Twang Blues. I hope you enjoy working on this. My name's Dave Isaacs. Keep watching for more lessons, and I'll see you soon.